Before we enter the battlefield of Kurukshetra, let me remind you, the Bhagavad Gita is not just a religious scripture. It is one of the greatest works of psychology and philosophy ever written. Leaders like Mahatma Gandhi, scientists like Albert Einstein, and entrepreneurs like Ray Dalio have drawn wisdom from it. Even in Silicon Valley, CEOs and billionaires openly admit that the GS's teachings help them make decisions under pressure. The Gita is not about war outside. It is about the war inside you. Every verse is a dialogue between your higher self, Krishna, and your struggling self, Arjuna. It is a guide to discipline, clarity, and victory over the mind. Now, let us begin Chapter 1. Arjuna Vishada Yoga, the yoga of Arjuna's dejection. The Bhagavad Gita is not just a spiritual text, it is the world's oldest manual on psychology and self-mastery. Leaders, billionaires, and even scientists have found its wisdom timeless. Einstein once said, "When I read the Bhagavad Gita, I discover how much meaning life has." The Gita is not about gods in the sky. It is about the battlefield inside you, between clarity and confusion, courage and fear, duty and desire. According to the Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 1, verses 1 to 10. The scene opens in the sacred land of Kurukshetra, where the great war is about to begin. King Dhritarashtra, who is blind, asks his minister Sanjaya, "On this holy battlefield of Kurukshetra, what did my sons and the sons of Pandu do?" Sanjaya begins his narration. He describes how Duryodhana, seeing the Pandava army arrayed in formation, approaches his teacher Dronacharya with unease in his voice. He points out the mighty warriors assembled against him. Duryodhana says, "Behold, O teacher, the vast army of the sons of Pandu, arranged skillfully by the son of Drupada, your own disciple. In this army stand great heroes, mighty bowmen equal in battle to Bhima and Arjuna. There is Yuddhana, Virata, and the valiant King Drupada. There are also Drishtakatu, Chekitana, the powerful king of Kashi, Purujit, Kantiboya, and Shabya, all noble and great warriors. Udamanyu, the strong Uttamaja, Abhimanyu, the son of Subha, and the 5 sons of Draupadi. All these heroic archers are present, prepared to give their lives in battle." Thus, in the opening verses, the battlefield is set. Duryodhana, despite his pride, cannot hide his fear at the sight of the Pandava army filled with heroes of unmatched valor. According to the Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 1, verses 20 to 30, Arjuna stands in his chariot, asking Krishna to place it in the middle of the battlefield so he can see both armies. When he sees his relatives, teachers, and friends on both sides, his heart fills with sorrow. His body trembles, his bow slips from his hand, and his skin burns with anxiety. Arjuna, the greatest warrior, is paralyzed by grief. In psychology, this is a moment of cognitive dissonance. When one's values and duties collide, Arjuna's duty as a warrior demands that he fight, but his heart as a son, student, and friend resists. This inner conflict overwhelms his decision-making, just as modern neuroscience explains how the emotional brain can hijack logical thinking. Science too finds a mirror here. In quantum physics, before an observation is made, multiple outcomes exist in a state of uncertainty. Arjuna is in that same state, frozen between action and inaction, unable to collapse possibility into a clear choice. Thus, the first chapter is not just a story of a warrior refusing to fight, it is a timeless picture of the human condition. When we stand at life's crossroads, torn between duty and desire, clarity and confusion. According to the Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 2, verses 1 to 12, seeing Arjuna overwhelmed with sorrow, Krishna begins to speak. He gently reminds Arjuna that his grief is misplaced. The wise do not lament for the living or the dead, because the soul is eternal. Bodies may perish, but the self, the soul, never dies. Krishna explains that just as we pass through childhood, youth, and old age, in the same way the soul passes from one body to another. Death is only a change of form, not an end. In psychology, this teaching reflects acceptance therapy, learning to separate one's true self from temporary experiences of pain, fear, and loss. By recognizing that suffering belongs to the body and mind, not to the eternal self, one finds strength to face life's trials. Science too has parallels. In physics, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It only transforms from one form to another. Krishna's teaching resonates with this principle. The soul, like energy, is indestructible, forever transforming, never ceasing. Thus begins Krishna's deeper guidance, to lift Arjuna's mind from despair to clarity, from confusion to wisdom, showing that true strength comes from understanding the eternal nature of the self. According to Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 2, verse 47, "You have a right to perform your duty, but never to its fruits. Let not the results of your actions be your motive, nor let your attachment be to an action." Now think about this from a psychological perspective. Most of our stress comes not from the action itself, but from the expectation of results. A student studies and worries about grades. An entrepreneur works and fears failure. A professional acts but is anxious about recognition. This constant mental attachment to outcomes is what burns our energy. Modern psychology calls this outcome anxiety. When the mind is fixated only on results, the present moment is lost. Krishna here gives the antidote. Focus only on your action, the present step. From a scientific lens, this teaching is also visible in quantum physics. The observer effect shows that outcomes are uncertain until observed. Similarly, in life, you can control only your input, not the wave of infinite possibilities. By releasing attachment, you are in alignment with natural law. This is not about becoming careless. It is about working with clarity, intensity, and discipline without chaining your mind to results. This is why the Bhagavad Gita is not just spiritual, it's a psychological manual for high performance and inner peace. Why do so many people today feel anxious, lost, or pressured despite living in an age of freedom and technology? The answer was already given thousands of years ago. According to the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 47, Krishna said, "You have a right to perform your duty, but never to its fruits. Let not the results of your actions be your motive, nor let your attachment be to an act." Modern psychology calls this outcome detachment. When you obsess over results, your brain activates the stress response, flooding you with cortisol. This makes you anxious, impatient, and even paralyzed. Krishna's advice is the same as what cognitive behavioral therapy teaches today. Focus on the action, not the uncontrollable result. Neuroscience shows that when we stay present with action, the flow state, dopamine is released gradually, keeping us motivated. But when we chase the result, money, recognition, victory, dopamine spikes and crashes, leaving us drained. Krishna's wisdom matches the science of sustainable motivation. Think about it: if a farmer plants seeds, he cannot control the rain, the sun, or the soil completely. According to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 70, a person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is still, can alone achieve peace, and not the person who strives to satisfy such desires. Think about this. Our mind is like an ocean, and desires are like rivers flowing into it. The ocean doesn't overflow every time a river pours into it. It remains steady. Similarly, a wise person doesn't let every new desire disturb his mental balance. From a psychological perspective, this is emotional regulation. Desires never end. Money, status, validation, pleasure. If you chase each one, you become restless. Modern psychology calls this the hedonic treadmill. The more you get, the more you want, but you never feel satisfied. From a scientific angle, neuroscience shows dopamine spikes when we chase new desires, but quickly falls once achieved, pushing us to seek the next hit. That's why people with millions still feel empty. Gita is saying, don't block desires, but don't be carried away either. Be the ocean, not the river. From a logical lens, peace doesn't come from fulfilling every want. Peace comes from stability, knowing that desires will come and go, but your inner self remains untouched. This is why billionaires meditate, why scientists explore mindfulness, because success without inner stability feels hollow. According to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 71, a person who abandons all desires and acts free from longing, without any sense of mine and without egoism, attains true peace. Look closely. Krishna isn't saying you should stop working or stop achieving. He's saying drop attachment. The "this is mine, I must have it" mindset. From a psychological view, this is freedom from ego-driven behavior. The word mine is the root of stress. People fight over property, titles, or recognition because they attach identity to possessions. But identity built on external things is fragile. The moment it's threatened, anxiety rises. From a scientific perspective, modern neuroscience shows that ego attachment activates the brain's stress circuits amygdala. Letting go of I, me, mine reduces cortisol levels, lowering anxiety and promoting calmness. That's why monks, even with nothing, radiate peace. Their brains are not caught in endless stress loops of ownership and status. From a logical standpoint, peace can never come by clinging. The tighter you hold something, the more fear arises of losing it. When you let go, you don't become weak, you become untouchable. Nobody can rob you of your peace if you are not chained to mine and me. This verse is teaching, act, achieve, enjoy, but don't bind your soul with labels of ownership and ego. That's real freedom. According to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verses 72, Arjuna, this is the state of Brahmi union with the eternal. Once a person attains it, he is never deluded. Even at the moment of death, being established in this state, he attains liberation. Krishna closes chapter 2 with a powerful truth. When you live free from attachment, ego, and desire, established in inner balance, you experience Brahmi's steady state of union with higher consciousness. From a psychological view, this is self-mastery. Your emotions, fears, and cravings no longer control you. Instead of reacting to life, you respond with clarity. Modern psychology calls this a flow state or a level where external chaos doesn't disturb inner stability. From a scientific perspective, research on meditation and mindfulness shows similar results. Long-term meditators develop stronger prefrontal cortex activity, rational control, and reduced amygdala reactivity, fear, stress response. The brain literally rewires itself to remain calm under pressure, reflecting the Gita's ancient wisdom. From a logical standpoint, if peace depends on external success, it dies when circumstances change. But if peace is rooted in your inner being, it stays unshaken. This is why Krishna says, even at death, such a person is not disturbed. They move from life to liberation with dignity, not fear. This verse concludes, the one who masters desire, ego, and attachment lives liberated, in life and beyond. Coming to Chapter 3 Karma Yoga, the yoga of action, Krishna makes a profound clarification to Arjuna. He explains that true wisdom does not mean abandoning action, but rather performing one's duty with the right attitude. According to the Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 3 Verse 4, not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. Here Krishna strikes directly at a common misconception. People often believe that doing nothing or escaping from responsibilities leads to peace. But inactivity is not liberation. In fact, modern psychology proves this. When people suppress action and avoid responsibility, they don't find peace, but rather anxiety, guilt, and inner restlessness. True peace comes from meaningful action. Neuroscience also supports this. Purposeful work activates the brain's reward system, giving a sense of fulfillment. On the other hand, idleness leads to overthinking, depression, and loss of direction. According to the Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 3 Verse 8, perform your prescribed duty, for action is better than inaction. Without action, not even the maintenance of your body is possible. This is not just spiritual. According to Chapter 3, Verse 21, Krishna declares, whatever a great man does, others will follow. Whatever standards he sets, the world pursues. This is a powerful psychological truth. Human beings are wired to imitate. From childhood, we copy parents, teachers, leaders, and society. In modern science, this is explained by mirror neurons in the brain. We naturally mimic the actions of those we admire or consider authoritative. That's why leaders carry such responsibility. If a leader acts with discipline, honesty, and duty, their followers absorb the same. If a leader indulges in corruption or laziness, the same ripple spreads across society. In today's world, this verse reminds us that success is not only about personal achievement, but about setting an example. Whether you're a parent, teacher, manager, or friend, your behavior silently teaches others more than your words ever will. Psychologically, this also connects with social proof, a concept in behavioral science, where people look to others for guidance on what is right. When you stand firm in your dharma duty, others naturally gain courage to do the same. So Krishna is not just teaching. The Wheel of Dharma Chapter 3, Verse 16 Krishna explains, he who does not follow the wheel of creation set in motion, living in sin, delighting in the senses, that man lives in vain. The wheel of creation means the natural cycle of duty gives action, gives sacrifice, gives harmony, gives renewal. When one performs action as duty, without selfish attachment, the wheel of life turns smoothly, nature flourishes, society functions, and the soul evolves. When a person refuses responsibility and lives only for personal pleasure, they disconnect from this wheel. Modern psychology calls this hedonic treadmill, the endless chase of pleasure without lasting satisfaction. A life of mere consumption, without contribution, leads to emptiness. Neuroscience also shows that the brain's dopamine system, if overstimulated by constant pleasure-seeking food, entertainment, social media, weakens motivation for deeper goals. This mirrors Krishna's warning, living only for the senses is a wasted life. So Krishna's teaching here is timeless. Happiness is not found in escaping responsibility, but in aligning with the greater order, contributing to family, society, and creation itself. In modern words, fulfillment comes not from asking, what can I take, but from asking, what can I give? This part closes a key loop. Action isn't optional. It is the very law of wise action versus ignorant action. In Chapter 3, Bear said 17-19, Krishna shifts focus. But the one who delights in the self, who is satisfied within, who rejoices in the self alone, that person has no duty. For him, there is nothing to gain from action, nothing to lose by inaction. Yet, Krishna immediately adds, even such wise men continue to act, not for themselves, but to guide the world. Meaning, the enlightened soul, who has realized inner fulfillment, is free from the bondage of desires. He does not need to act for personal gain, but still, he acts out of compassion, out of responsibility, to set an example. Psychological insight. This is the difference between ego-driven action and purpose-driven action. Ego-driven gives I work to get something. Purpose-driven gives I work because it aligns with truth, and it benefits others. Modern psychology mirrors this in the concept of self-actualization, Maslow's hierarchy. At the highest level, people are no longer motivated by deficiency lack, but by growth and contribution. They act not because they need validation or reward, but because giving itself becomes natural. Neuroscience insight. When someone acts from intrinsic purpose rather than external rewards, the brain's reward system dopamine becomes more stable. Such people experience deep satisfaction, serotonin balance, instead of highs and crashes. Krishna's teaching is clear. The wise do not withdraw from life. They act in the world, but their action is pure, free from attachment, serving as a lamp for others.